Hey, what's up guys? Hardleg Joe here with what a deck profile for the Pure Zefra Stun deck, as brought to you by Patreon sponsor Jonathan Barks. I'm just going to go through everything in here, and then I'll explain how it works. And I should note that these names are really difficult to pronounce, so my apologies if I get the pronunciation wrong. But for monsters, we've got 3 Zefrath, 3 Zefrui, 3 Zefrexa, 2 Satellar Knight Zefrexicton, 1 Zefra Saber, 1 Zefra Core, 2 Zefra Thuban, 1 Zefra Wendy, 3 Zefrexi, Treasure of the Yang Zing, 2 Ritual Beast Tamer Zefrapilica, and 1 Shadal Zefrenga. For our spells, we're just playing 3 Zefra Providence and 3 Oracle of Zefra. For traps, we've got 3 Zefra War, 2 Echo Oscillation, 1 Chosen of Zefra, 3 Zefra Divine Strike, and 3 9 Pillars of the Yang Zing. Our extra deck is 1 Chao Feng, 1 Ignister Prominence, 1 Yazi, Evil of the Yang Zing, 1 Black Rose Moonlight Dragon, Coral Dragon, Stardust Charge Warrior, Denlong, Utopia Beyond, Tiris, Keeper of Genesis, Utopia the Lightning, Volcasaurus, Regular Utopia, Ragna Zero, Silent Honor and Castel, the Skyblaster Musketeer. The side deck I'll go over in a moment. So as the name implies, this is a stun deck, which means it's all about slowing your opponent down. We do this mostly through negations. This deck has 6 counter traps in it, which are all searchable, mainly via this Zefraniu, the Secret of the Yang Zing. When this card is Pendulum Summoned, or when this card is destroyed by battle or card effect while it's in the monster zone, you can add 1 Yang Zing or Zefra spell trap from your deck to your hand. This searches both of these. We've got 9 Pillars of the Yang Zing, which will negate a spell, trap, or monster effect, and then destroy a Yang Zing card you control. And then we've got Zefra Divine Strike. This can negate a spell, trap, or monster effect by banishing a face-up Zefra monster from your extra deck. So how this works, normally you're going to Pendulum Summon this guy, the Secret of the Yang Zing. It will let you search out your 9 pillars. You set that. When they activate anything, you can negate it by destroying this. When it's destroyed, you get to search again. And then during your next turn, because it goes to the extra deck instead of the graveyard, you can just Pendulum Summon it out and search another counter trap, either another copy of this or some Zefra Divine Strikes if you've already got cards in your extra deck. In addition, we're also playing this cool card, Zefra War. This is target 1 Zefra card you control and 1 card your opponent controls. Destroy both of them. If you have 2 Zefra cards in your pendulum zones, you can activate this from your hand. So say you need to stun your opponent even more. You've already negated them with 9 pillars. This has been destroyed. You can then add this to your hand, and since you'll have your pendulum scales up, you activate it from your hand during their turn. Destroy one of your scales, or if you have another Zefra card on the field, you destroy that to destroy a card they have. Now, as for actually pendulum summoning these, all the monsters have either a 1 scale or a 7 scale. We're playing equal amounts of both so that you have an equal chance to grab them. None of them really have relevant pendulum effects. Their only ones are that you cannot pendulum summon anything except for Zefra and then whatever archetype they belong to, because these are all Zefra plus some other archetype, either Yang Zing or Nekroz or whatever. The only exception to this is Zefrath. This is a scale 5, but its effect is during your main phase, you can add 1 Zefra Pendulum monster from your deck to your extra deck face up, and if you do, change this card's pendulum scale to be the same as that scale until the end of the turn. So this is great. Normally you're going to want to get this first turn if can, or just as soon as possible. And you'll want to go first with this deck, by the way, because you want to get down all your negations before your opponent has a chance to do anything. And then from there, if you have this and like a scale 1, any of your scale 1s, you can use this to send the Secret of the Yang Zing to the extra deck. His scale will become 7, so then you can Pendulum Summon this out and get your plays going. And of course, even if you use something like Zefra Divine Strike and you have to banish this from your extra deck, next turn you can just add another one from your deck back. So it allows you to use this without worrying as much, especially because we play 3 of these and 3 of the other Yang Zing. This other Yang Zing, by the way, its effect is when it's Pendulum Summoned or Special Summoned, you can target 1 Yang Zing or Zefra monster you control except itself. That monster is treated as a tuner this turn. But if you do that, place this card on the bottom of the deck when it leaves the field. This is how you access your Synchro monsters. We've got pretty much just a toolbox. There's a lot of different leveled Yang Zings, and we're just playing different ones for whatever you could possibly run into. Really, you can run whatever you want. The only thing I'd really suggest is Stardust Charge Warrior. There's actually a pretty neat combo you can do with him in the field spell, but I'll get to that when I talk about the field spell. The rest of the Zefras also have some pretty neat effects. This one in particular, Zefrexa, is pretty nice because if a Zefra card you control is destroyed while this is in your hand or in the graveyard, you could special summon it. It's got a pretty nice 2,000 attack, which is not a whole lot, but the fact that you can just special it out of the graveyard whenever something happens is pretty nice. It's pretty good for making rank 5s, that's why we're playing 2 of them. But it's just great because unlike your other Zefra, where if you use them for an Ixie summon, they're just gone to the graveyard, this one you're going to be able to recur back every time you destroy something, which you're going to be destroying a lot with things like Pillar and your Zefra War. You can also destroy things with the 2 Satellarknight Zefras, the Zefra Stinction and the Zefruben. These both have similar effects. When they're Pendulum Summoned, Normal Summoned, or Flip Summoned, you can target one other Zefra card you control, and then destroy another card your opponent controls. With this one, that card has to be face up. With this card, it has to be face down, but it's kind of the same thing. You're destroying one of your Zefras and destroying a card that they control, which of course helps to stun with things if your Zefra War and your negations aren't doing enough. And then it can also proc this guy's effect, since he'll be summoned out once these are destroyed. The rest of the Zefra we're just playing at 1, which is mostly for this Chosen of Zefra card. This is a continuous trap and gains effects equal to the number of face-up Zefra monsters in your extra deck with different names. It doesn't come up a lot, it's not supremely useful, which is why we're only playing it at 1, but its final effect, if you can get 10 cards with different names in your extra deck, you could send this to the graveyard to shuffle all cards your opponent controls in their hand, field, or graveyard to the deck, which is just pretty much a win button. Like, you win if you can get that off. So in order to do that, we're playing one of each Zefra. If you just wanted to make this more focused on the stun aspect without having the option to do a super cheesy move, you can get rid of all of these or just replace them with other pendulums as you wish. But that's the way I decided to go with it. But just so you know, because their effects do come up from time to time, they are useful in certain niche situations. I'll just go over real quick. If this card is Pendulum Summoned, you can target one card in either player's Pendulum Zone and return it to your hand, which is pretty good if you need to add this to your hand or add some of the other ones to your hand to make room for this. The Ritual Beast, when it's normal or Pendulum Summoned, you can target one Zefra in your graveyard and special summon it, but it's destroyed during the end phase. Pretty good for getting one of your monsters back if you Ixie summoned. If you wanted to go for a more Ixie-centric build, I'd probably run this at 3. Zefra Core is when it's Pendulum Summoned, you can target one Zefra card in your Pendulum Zone and special summon it. Not particularly good because you can't special summon this, which has the highest attack. And normally you want to keep your Pendulum Zones where they are, but there's a chance that you could use it under certain conditions. This is probably the only one that's not all that useful. You could tribute this card in order to ritual summon a Nekroz, which if you wanted to mix this with Nekroz you could, but otherwise this isn't useful. Except I guess for the fact that it's a level 4, and it is a water, so again if you were doing a more Ixie build, you could build Bahamut Shark with this thing if you wanted to. So, as for the rest of our Spell Trap lineup, we've got a lot of searchers. Zefra Providence is just search any Zefra card from your deck to your hand. Really great. In addition, if this is in the graveyard and your Zefra cards would be destroyed, you can banish this instead. This works really well to protect your cards from being destroyed by things like Twin Twister. In addition, with certain effects, in particular the Zefra War, both cards don't have to remain on the field in order for this to resolve. So if you want, you can target one of your Zefra you control and one card your opponent controls. Your opponent's card will be destroyed, and you can save your monster with Zefra Providence, and it won't interrupt the effect. The same is not true for the two Satellarknights. Both cards have to be destroyed in order for it to work. Same with this Echo Oscillation, which we're playing at 2. This is continuous. You can target one card in your Pendulum Zone, destroy it, and then draw one card. This is particularly good because you want to get Zefrath into the extra deck. I guess I didn't really explain him. He's mostly good for his pendulum effect, but he does have a pretty neat monster effect. It's if he's in your extra deck, you contribute all the monsters you control, including at least 3 Zefra monsters, to special summon this out of the extra deck. And it has a pretty beefy 3450 attack and get over pretty much anything. And then in addition to that, if you use that effect, you can Pendulum Summon again. So not only can you get this big boss monster out, but you can re-summon all the things you had to tribute for him. And of course, if you have extra effects that you haven't used, pretty much all the Zefra are once per turn, but if you haven't used them already, you can then use them. In addition to all that, it has another effect that you can tribute any Zefra you control to special summon another Zefra from your deck. So if you do want one in particular, and especially this one because it gets its effect when it's special summoned, you can get that out of the deck, and it'll just help to add more things to the extra deck if you're trying to get the Chosen of Zefra off. And that just brings us to Oracle of Zefra. This is a field spell. Probably the most important effect in this variant of the deck is just when it's activated, you can add one Zefra monster from your deck to your hand, so it's even more search power, and it can be searched with Zefra Providence. So if you just want to do deck thinning in the movie The Game, you can like summon this, use this to search Zefra Providence. Zefra Providence searches Oracle of Zefra, which searches any other card, any other monster in the deck. It also has additional effects that basically if you Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, or Ixie summon, you get specific effects. We don't Ritual or Fusion, so I wouldn't worry about that. If you Synchro summon, you can choose one monster from your deck and put it on top of your deck, which can be pretty good if you want to get to your Secrets of the Yang Zing, if you don't already have Zefrath, or just if you want to add any of these in particular, you get a double draw next turn. If you Ixie summon, you can draw one card and discard one card, which is alright. The only card we really like in the graveyard is Zefra Providence, but you could set up for something with something like the Ritual Beast Tamer, since it summons out of the graveyard. Now, the cool combo with this and Stardust Charge Warrior is that when this card is Synchro summoned, you can draw one card. So this will activate at the same time as Oracle of Zefra. If you Synchro summon, you can set one monster on top of your deck, and then you'll draw it with Stardust Charge Warrior. And there's a lot of cheesy people who want to go even harder with the counter traps. What they'll do is run the one Infernity Archfiend, put that on top of their deck, draw it, and then you can special summon it to search any Infernity card, either Infernity Launcher, or much more likely, Infernity Barrier, so that you have 3 counter traps, the Yang Zing, the Zefra, and the Infernity Barrier, and just shut down your opponent completely. I just wanted to go with Pure Zefra, so I didn't include that, but if you wanted to be even more of a troll, go ahead and do that. Everything else in the extra deck, like I said, is just a toolbox. Play whatever you want, whatever you think fits. If you wanted to go for a more Ixie-heavy build, like I said, I'd include more of these. The rest of the side deck is pretty much just other options. If you need to destroy more face-up cards, add in a third one of those. More face-down cards, a third one of those. This, I don't think I actually mentioned this. I must have missed over it, but when this card is normal or Pendulum summoned, you can add one face-up Zefra monster from your extra deck back to your hand. Not very useful now, but if going into Link format, this might actually be pretty effective, because it's going to allow you to get your things back to your hand and Pendulum summon more than one monster per turn. Everything else in here is probably what I would consider for the actual extra deck. You probably want some Twin Twisters just in case you're playing a lot of really heavy back row decks, maybe something like Paleozoic. Pot of Riches can be pretty good, especially again if you're going to more Ixie summons, or if your cards are being negated and destroyed. They're sent to the graveyard, you can then shuffle them back and draw a card. And finally, just some alternative extra deck options, because you have so many different levels, so many different things you could do. You could make this for more Spell Trap Destruction, same with Wind Up, Arsenal, Zenmayo, and even Black Rose Dragon if you just want to wipe the whole field and start over from scratch. So there you go, there's your deck profile for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. Next week, no idea what I'm doing, but until then, good luck and have fun.